Welcome to another episode of Dirtcheapdaily. In this episode, we're going to start the main part of the manual swap and hope we don't get rained out. It looks like it's going to be blowing in some pretty good stuff here in the next few minutes, but we're going to go for it anyway. I have all of my tools laid out behind me, so I know where they're at. I know what I can grab, where it is when I need it under the car. I've organized all my wrenches, so I have 8s, 10s, 12s, 14s, 17s. I don't have any 19s because I figure for a 19 I'm going to be using a big breaker bar. I have my sockets all set up, so I have 1/4 inch right here, a 10 and an 8. I have a 1/2 inch 10 and 2 3/8 10s. I have a 3/8 12 and 2 1/2 inch 12s. I have 3 14s that are a 3/8 ratchet and a 1/2 inch 14. I have 2 1/2 inch, I have 1 1/2 inch 17 and a 3/8 17. I have a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter, and I have a 3/8 19 and 2 1/2 inch 19s. I also have a whole nother set if I need something else with another 19. I have a couple of U-joints. I have all my screwdrivers, a sledge, an extra long breaker bar, my punches, channel locks, a crescent wrench. I have a set that's organized of ratcheting wrenches. I have a ton of extensions, a rubber mallet, a normal 3/8 ratchet with a little extension. I have my magnet, some pistol grip needle nose pliers, standard needle nose pliers, vice grips. There's another pair of vice grips and some big pliers and wire cutters over there. I have my manual starter here. This is like a trim piece that goes up underneath, I think. My dog bone. Those are my pedal covers, obviously. Over here I have my transmission mount and my manual drive shaft that's cleaned off and drying. I rust-exed it so that the rust there would be killed and I can spray it down. I have my rebuilt short shifter, and I have my manual transmission with a welded center differential that is drying. I just sprayed it down with brake cleaner, and so I'm getting ready to reseal that with RTV. I have my rebuilt U-joint. I also have my impact. So that's a ton of stuff, right? I also have taken off and broken the CV axles on the front. The bolts are off already. The car is jacked up on 4 jack stands with my jack underneath the rear diff just as another safety. I'm going to be using it later to get the transmission out. Next on the list, I'm going to take apart just my airbox, pull that all off so I have some extra room to work, and unbolt the top of the transmission from the engine case and pull the starter off. I'm then going to come in here and take apart my center console, take apart all my shift linkage. I'm taking this whole shifter assembly out. Then I'm going to crawl underneath the car, drop the exhaust off the hangers and pull the exhaust out the back. Take the heat shields down. Once the heat shields are down, I can get to the rear differential plate or cover, unbolt that, and I'll be able to drop the driveline out. When I drop the driveline out, I'm going to be catching all of the transmission fluid from the transmission. Once that's drained, I'll be able to unpin the CV axles and then unbolt the bottom 2 bolts on the transmission, the bell housing, and the engine case. Unbolt those last 2. I guess they're just nuts that pull off because they're studs to mount the transmission. When I do my exhaust, unplug the O2 sensor, obviously. Unplug everything from the transmission, drop the transmission down, pull it over next to my manual transmission and see if my connectors are the same, or if I can switch my speed sensor to my new transmission, or if I can splice those wires so I have a speedometer still. Then I will mount up my cross member to the transmission, throw in my driveline, bolt up my shift linkage, put the driveline cover, or the rear differential cover back on, put the heat shield back on, throw my exhaust back in. I guess before that I got to take off the flex plate and the clutch, obviously, but splice some wires up in there to trick the engine into thinking it's in neutral, and I'm done. It really is pretty simple. It's going to take me a while. Hopefully it doesn't start raining because I would really like to not get wet, but if that happens, that's alright. It's better than being 100 degrees out. Hopefully the wind won't screw my audio too bad. Oh, also, the first thing I did, I unplugged my battery so I don't have any issues, and so that I can leave the doors and the trunk and everything open and not have any lights run my battery dry. So yeah, well, we're gonna get started. Actually, I might paint this driveline really quick because it's gonna need some time to cure, and I don't want the rain to knock it out. So let's do that. Here we go. Okay, so I pulled off that air box, and I also pulled off the valve cover vent tubes that connect to both valve covers. So it's a little more open than it was. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna come down in here and unbolt this ground bracket right here. It's also one of the, not right here, because you can leave that on. We're gonna unbolt it from the back, because that's actually one of the starter bolts that holds the starter on and that holds the transmission to the engine. We're then going to come in and pull off our dog bone. So we're going to undo this, and we might pull it all the way out as well, just to get it out of the way. And then this over here, this is one of your other engine bolts that you need to pull off. So there's one here, there's that one here on the back side of that ground strap. There's one down up underneath, down right through here, on the bottom of the starter. And then there's two bolts down on the bottom that you can see really easily once you pull off the axles. And that's really all we need to do, especially since I already have this taken off. We do need to unplug these harnesses, or at least the ones that are connected to the transmission, like this one right here, that guy right there, and this big one right here. That's where you start in the engine anyway. So let's go ahead and pull those. It'll be easy enough to get the rest of it. There we go. So I got this bolt out, and I got this top starter bolt out, and I pulled off the starter and disconnected it all the way. So now, before I crawl underneath and get really dirty, I'm going to go inside the cockpit and take everything apart in there. And it might be starting to rain right now, so going inside the car would be a good time to do it. Anyway, that way I won't get all dirty, or get all the dirt from under the car inside the car, and we have to disconnect it anyway. So that's what we're going to go to now. So once you have that off, this was just 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then there's these 6 screws that you take out to pull that whole assembly off. So we're going to do that. So this is all taken apart now, right? This kind of wobbles around. We are going to have to get to it from the bottom and unbolt a couple things underneath. But for now, I think that's it inside the cockpit. So let's go ahead and get up underneath the car and start working. Okay, so we're under the engine, and we are going to drop our exhaust manifold. We're going to drop the whole exhaust all the way out. So there's that bolt right there you can see we're going to take off. We're going to unplug our O2 sensor and then pop off all of the hangers on the back of it. Drop it down and just slide the whole thing out the back. Being some funky size, it might be a 17. Yeah, it's a 17. Make sure it's a 17. Not a 17, it might be a 16. What the heck? Wow. I've never used a 16 before. Except I must have to get this on and off. There we go. We're down. So we don't want it to just hang by the O2 sensors. So we can sometimes get it to just kind of hang out by getting this lip of it over the lip of the cross member. And then that lets you pull the O2 sensors really quick without it hanging from them. You just gotta be really careful. Obviously, best thing to do would be to put a jack under it or something to support it. O2 sensor is right here. There goes one. Oh shoot, it pulled out. Well, that works too. When I was trying to pull it off, instead of pulling it out like I thought it did, the wires just pulled straight out of the connector. So we'll have to figure out where they go and plug them back in. But let's unplug this other one here, drop the hangers, and slide this whole bad boy out so that we can deal with it out from the car. Okay, with the heat shield out of the way, we're gonna take that back plate off. So we're gonna hit these bolts. I'm gonna let them soak in PB Blaster for a second, because you can get to the tops of them, obviously. And let some PB kind of sink in there because they can get really rusty. And a couple of them at the junkyard just broke off. And mostly this is here so that if your U-joint back here, right here, if it fails, your drive shaft won't just flip down and catapult you. So you do want to put it back on. It's a good safety feature. You don't want anything breaking and a drive shaft propelling around. It'll stop it right there. It's good. Good to have. So we're going to pull that down, and then even before we pull that down, we can start working on these bolts. So these are where we're going to take off of the rear diff. So I have the e-brake on right now, and we'll be able to break the bolt, the nut loose. We're going to spray those to PB as well. But we can break the bolt loose, take it off. It'll slide out this way, obviously. And then you undo the e-brake and twist. Just roll one of the tires and it'll twist. And you do that to all four of them. Then with this down, you take off these two bolts that are pretty big. You pull both of those off, and then your driveline will just slide out. But as it slides out, there's a seal in here. Obviously the seal is good, so it's not leaking. But when you pull this out, there's no more seal, and so it's just going to puke transmission fluid all over. So you want to make sure you have a pan down here on the ground before you pull this guy out. So that's where I'm going to go, and I'll pick it up once I get to that point. Alright, so I dropped the rear driveline, and I got that plate off. I've loosened both of those bolts, and I'm just about to drop it down. So we'll drain the transmission fluid. Go. Ugh, it's dirty. Well, while that's peeing, I'm gonna go ahead and pull these. Sweet, it didn't pee on me. Oh, well, I wanted to. Well, there we go. Everybody wants an automatic driveline. That one's in really good shape and no rust. Okay, I think that's good enough for that. So let's close it back up. And let that kind of drip a couple times. Sweet. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is pull off the bottom nuts that are holding the transmission and the engine together. Actually, right now I'm going to disconnect the shift linkage right here so that I can get it off and out from the inside. Alright, thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in tomorrow and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it, because tomorrow's episode will continue where we left off, pulling that automatic out and getting that manual back in. I still am working on getting rid of the check engine light. So just for everybody that does want to do it, the way that I've done it so far, there is a check engine light. It drives really, really well right now. The check engine light, I pulled the code. It's just wondering where the automatic transmission is. I haven't really had time to diagnose it and deal with the check engine code to get rid of it, just because I've been pretty busy. So I'm just getting back into it, and that is the next step for the manual swap on my end. But there's still a lot of content coming your way. I will be turbocharging the Legacy GT, so I will have a few episodes on how to do that to your NA Subaru. So make sure you follow me for daily updates. You can check me out on Facebook or Twitter. There's a link to my store down below. I'm still working on getting the shirts up on my website. But there are stickers there in the meantime. I think I dropped the price to like $1.50 a piece. So again, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.